Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, geeks, nerds, and ambassadors everywhere, and welcome to the Ambassadorial Wing and another installment of Council of the Ones, Babylon 5 review. And hope you all are having a great Friday afternoon or Friday night, depending on what time zone you are in. Hope you're have had a good week, and we're wrapping up another week. And I have got my fellow council members, Mountains of Elysium, and back from her long stint working in Gray 17, Fiona Wolf. And today we are... Go ahead, Fiona.
No, all the coupons are missing. Yes, bad pun, referencing the drop. Yes. All the coupons are missing.
Oh, for the love of Pete. And to everybody in the chat, Archer, Colin, Archer. I never know what to call you, Colin. I don't know if I need to call you Archer or if I should call you Colin. Either one would work. But anyway, Colin, good to see you. And to everybody else that's lurking, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, hope y'all have a great time with us this afternoon or this evening. And hope you all enjoy the stream. And today we are continuing our review of Season 4, The Exercise of Vital Powers. And also to the chat, a familiar face, one that is here every single week, Bureau 31. Bureau, it is good to see you. Drake Tungsten, also good to see you. And Potato Revan. Potato Revan, I think this is the first time I've seen you in our chat, so thank you for tuning in this afternoon. Appreciate you being here. And by all means...
Potato Revan is a great guy. I know. He's from the neighbouring county to me. He's another fellow Irishman.
Oh,
so greetings, Potato.
Okay, well, excellent. Hey, it's always good to have another Irish lad in the chat, and Shane Nolan. Shane,
another Irish guy. You're being outnumbered.
Yeah, well, technically, I guess it's even more outnumbered because I am a quarter Irish.
Well, I kind of outnumber you both.
Ooh,
I am a quarter Canadian, so meh. So how you like them apples? Well, not to mention, I am not only a quarter Canadian, I am also Greek.
If you go to Troy, glory will be yours. The world will remember your name.
Achilles! Get up, Prince of Troy.
That's right, folks. I was there thousands of years ago when Troy was burned. I'm definitely outnumbered. And here is and go ahead, Elysium.
I was saying Archer Colin, he's living in Britain, which we consider as Ireland's offshore island, so he's one of us. He's grand.
Yes, Colin is a good egg. And here is another member of the council, one we haven't seen in a couple weeks, and always a pleasure to have him. You know him. You most certainly love him. If you don't, what's wrong with you? Truly. The one and the only, Lord Koj.
Oh, thank you for the beautiful entrance. As pro wrestling fans, that's huge. I appreciate the love. Thanks.
You are welcome.
And there is much rejoicing.
I'm armed with potatoes. I'm going to fry them up and cook them in a stew later. Yeah.
You know what? I don't care. I don't care if I get a copyright claim for this because I got a copyright claim for this last night. I don't care. No, you know what? I'll use this one because I won't get a copyright. Fiona, you're cheesing me off today, and you know what happens when you cheese off the ambassador.
What did I walk into?
It's magically delicious.
Yes.
I have to cover all my bases.
That's it. That's it. I don't care if I get a copyright claim for it. I am doing this drop. I'm doing it.
Yep.
Now, are you going to behave yourself or do I have to boot you?
I have to keep exercising my use of vital powers.
Yes.
How could you rent the thing anyway without a credit card?
I have a gasoline card.
You can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile.
Yes.
you. You.
Are you done now?
Okay. I think I've gotten it almost out of me. Poor Mr. Clark won't know what hit him.
She's on our side, Ambassador.
Say again, Elysium?
She's on our side.
Barely. Anyway, today we are doing a breakdown and a discussion. Oh, for the love of cripes, Leroy Kong, you are... Leroy, I love you, but stop saying you're late. We've been on for 6 whole minutes. You're not late. You're not freaking late.
Trust me, take it from me. Listen, Ambassador, on this one.
A wizard is never late. He arrives when he means to.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to say that line, Fiona. You are not allowed to quote the Lord of the Rings. You are not allowed. Your token quoting privileges have been rescinded until further notice.
I've lost my Florida card.
Yes. Your quote shall not pass.
Now I gotta find a reface. I gotta see if there's a reface for. Oh, holy crap! We've got almost the whole council here, and also coming back from another excursion to the Rim. He's wacky. He's bald, and we love him. The one and the only Zod Rider.
Hey!
Zod is here.
Hey,
A full console. This is awesome.
Excellent.
I know. Look at it. Look at it. Bask in the glory.
Except for Classic, yeah, it is the full council.
Classic is our dragon / Green Ranger that shows up when he means to.
Yeah,
Right.
Hey, no. We don't quote we don't reference the crappy Power Rangers. There is only one robot champion that we reference here, and that is, of course, the great and powerful Voltron.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm all about the Japanese original stuff anyway. Super Sentai,
Yes.
Voltron,
But-
all the way,
but-
baby.
I
just don't
gotta
know
admit
who's
though,
Sentai.
I do like other giant robot things sometimes. Yes.
Yeah, well, we don't care what you like, Fiona.
Oh.
Zod.
It leads to the way of madness.
And Zod's coming in thinking, what the hell did I come into? Zod, good to
I just
see
feel
you, bud.
Fiona's living up to her avatar right now. It just fits right now.
A drunken
It's like-
dragon? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what that dragon is. but
Legend.
She's on fire.
Legend of
You would be
drunken.
semi-correct. I have one screwdriver in me right now
Well,
because
that
I don't have
explains
to
a
work
lot.
today. Whee!
That explains a lot. Zod, good afternoon, my friend. Good to see you. How are you?
Good to see all of you. Good to be here.
But
We
unlike
missed you
Mr.
last couple of-
Garibaldi, I'm not attached to the alcohol. It just flows through me. It does not control me.
And
Okay.
Lewis Cox, yes.
Okay.
Transformers
Well,
is-
red wine or white wine? Which one, Fiona?
Usually I prefer reds.
Okay.
Oh, dear Lord. This is going to be a weird stream. I can already tell.
Even stranger than Mr. Edgars. Mystery man
What's-
that Mr. Bester is after.
What's wrong with the drunken dragon? Lewis Cox?
Ephraim
Nothing in
Zimbalist Jr.
particular.
To be
Anyway.
fair, it seems like we are kicking off in the right vein of a Garibaldi adventure.
Indeed.
Like his type
Yes.
of wit and guile is all here right now.
Yes,
Oh
that
yes,
is true.
because Mr. Garibaldi's all worried about Sheridan's delusions of grandeur when it's really that's what Mr. Bester wanted.
Mm.
Ah.
There are no delusions of grandeur. He's trying to get rid of President Clark, who is, well, a homicidal maniac.
Cult of personality.
That too. you could say Clark is the embodiment of a certain online nuisance. Anyway. Yeah, Beer 31. I'm impressed. 10 concurrent
Fill the
viewers
gaps.
and over 3 different platforms. So thank you all for who have tuned in today. And I promise we will get onto the topic, which is, of course, Babylon 5 and this episode, the exercise of vital powers. And Vienna, if you don't behave yourself, I'm going to exercise my vital powers here in just a minute. So,
Oh, Dad! Nani?
that's it. I'm muting Fiona until she can actually say something constructive.
Oh. Okay, where do we begin today?
Okay, exercise of the
I guess
episode.
Garibaldi,
This is
right?
obviously a episode focused around Mr. Garibaldi and his adventures on Mars. Hey, there's a title for a movie: The Adventures of Michael Garibaldi on Mars.
That sounds like a good series. I'd watch that.
Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be like John Carter, but with a drunken Garibaldi. It'd be cool.
And Mars has already tried to kill him a handful of times, and yet he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as he says at the end of the episode, he's like, "Well, it's finally happened. I'm dead. I don't feel anything inside anymore."
No, so I have a question. So Mars has a lot of history for Garibaldi, and he keeps returning to it. I think him and Mars are really connected, and because he seems like he wants to be away from it, but he's always pulled back to it. It's like his destined home. So I'm thinking, do any of us have a similar type of Mars type of city, place we live, or something like that? We always come back to, because for me, where I live is kind of like that. I'm always pulled back to this area.
No, because I've lived in the same state all my life. I've never actually lived. Well, no, that's not entirely true. I did kind of sort of live in Kentucky for a while, so I guess you could say I have always been part Kentuckian, even though I'm not actually. I mean, I have Kentuckian roots, so to speak. So, anyway, but this, well, it explains some of my very dry sense of humor and my low tolerance for bullcrap. Kentuckians have a low tolerance for bullcrap, whereas Hoosiers, well, they're up there to their necks in it. That's why I don't claim to be a Hoosier. And people are going, "Are we going to talk about Babylon 5? We're 13 minutes in, Ambassador."
Well, there's one big vital thing. Dr. Franklin sees how Lita can help them out with their certain kind of telepath issue. So it's like a precursor to let's insert them in as a weapon. And of course, Bester gets upset with this whole aspect later on, because his special lady was listed as didn't have any family or other attachments except for Bester. But, Sheridan and crew are honorable, so they never used her in that capacity, from what I remember.
No, they didn't.
I wonder, did the Psychor give her to the Shadows specifically to maybe control Bester, as he is very powerful within the organization?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yes, because I think in the lore, his grandfather was one of the very powerful within. Was it Kevin Vassett, I believe his name is?
Yeah, he was like the big kahuna for all that stuff starting Psychor, but his parents ended up being like the renegades later on. I'm trying to remember if it was the daughter that was connected to his grandfather. No, I think it was through the daughter. But yeah, that whole I did link it earlier, but you can grab the Psycho trilogy from that link.
I like this episode too because it kind of capitalizes on it shows like Lita, her ability to subdue the connection of the devices attached to the telepaths that are in MedLab, because in Third Space they mentioned that she has I forgot the term. It's not telekinesis. It's the one where she could see through technology. Like she was able to see the cameras switch from who's watching on the other end. like that enhancement from the Vorlons, I think was on purpose specifically for debunking and nerfing shadow technology, because if she was around, if she had that the whole time, Kosh would know she has that, and whoever other Vorlons. So I think they also had her with her unknowing that she's actually like a buffer to protect them from the shadows, and we're seeing it put forth in play right now as she's able to free the patients from the shadow technology implants.
Well, that
That's
in
cool.
some ways she's kind of like a dead switch too, like because she's loaded with a whole lot of information that he's not fully aware of.
Right, because she doesn't even know how much until it surfaces, as we saw in Third Space perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's more of that.
But no, it's actually a clever way of writing in. You can write in solutions to problems later on down the line by pre-establishing, Lita having certain kinds of abilities that she's not even aware of, which is the reason why Buster had her sign that contract in the other episode, like, because they want to figure out what's under the hood. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah. Like they did with Talia.
Yeah, poor Talia. Heaven only knows what happened to her.
And even with that, like, Clark would eventually get that information. Say, like, he had been able to stay where he was at, he could have made an army of Litas eventually. At least I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, that was probably the plan. I mean, if you read some of these other novels and stuff that have focused on the Psychor and stuff, they go into a lot of the ideas behind recreating and basically breeding telepaths to take over. So yeah, at some point that was the plan.
Well, and this entire episode is very much focused around the issue of how telepaths are treated and how telepaths have influenced society. And I have to admit, one of my favorite parts of this episode is the conversation between Edgars and Garibaldi. When after they have him after Edgars questions him in front of that Psychor telepath. And of course, Mr. Wade comes in and gives her remuneration, which is the hot end of a PPG. So, and Edgars is very much, I think, playing 5D chess. He knows what's coming down the road better than what Garibaldi does. And of course, on the opposite side, you've also got Mr. Bester playing 5D chess, except he's playing somewhat in the dark. So what does he do? He figures out the perfect mole. And granted, I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. And he programs and sends in Mr. Garibaldi. And the thing that I love about the whole conversation and what Edgars has to say about the influence of the mega corporations and the structure of society as people perceive it, to me, that is very, very intriguing. And I think it's also in some ways, very timely. Because what Edgars is telling Mr. Garibaldi is, we're going into a new type of warfare where it's information and secrets that will
sounds like the modern day, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Has it ever changed? Has it ever changed?
To some degrees, no. And I don't want to get super political because we don't do that here, really. But
only in B5 universe.
Huh?
It's okay in the B5 universe only. Stick to that in Clark.
Yeah. What Edgars has to say, I think there is some truth in it. I think there's some honesty in it. Because normal people, or mundanes as he or as Bester calls us, we are kind of out of the loop. We don't have this gift to be able to read people's thoughts and control people's minds to varying degrees. And Edgars was right. Once they take off those gloves, that uniform, and that badge, they look like any other person. And you create a society where nobody feels like they can trust their neighbor anymore. And it's also it's a very good cautionary tale for how not to treat those that are other from ourselves. You know, we get bits and pieces of it, and I know that there's more in the novels that surround the whole Psychor storyline. But if you look at that future, we became so afraid of telepaths that we shoved them into a dark, scary box. And that box is the Psychor. And I will say, I truly feel bad for any telepath or any telekinetic that had to exist in the Psychor before it finally got taken down. And then, of course, it got turned into something else. So, guys, your thoughts on that?
Well, what would be the best way to put this? Crusade honestly did make an attempt to reconcile how most telepaths were feeling versus, the ones that were able to escape. And it did it in such a way where you can see some historical value in it, like some historical currents, but you don't have to necessarily tie it to any one human event.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how I look at it. But it's just like a simple kind of dynamic of what happens when you don't give these people any kind of choice. Imagine if Bester's parents had been able to raise him properly, he probably would have been one of the bigger advocates for the Underground Railroad and everything else for the telepaths. But instead, he ended up being brought in to be the ultimate weapon against his own people and to other people at large. It just happens sometimes where it's like that's one way you can actually create the conflict in the story where, yes, certain people can be held by like however they were raised or whatever else, or it's some environmental factor. But ultimately, you can go kind of the route that Lita went, where it's just like, I can see the writing on the wall. I want to get out of here. And she chose the Vorlons as the initial step to get out of it. But of course, once they were gone, she had to get sucked back into Psychor to get anything of value done, like according to how the society was set up. So unfortunately, Psychor honestly had a very Ouroboros kind of way of doing things. Hey, no, stop that. Bad doggy.
Psychor is trying to get to stop you from telling the truth. I wonder, was Bester a victim of his grandfather in the same way Garibaldi was a victim of him? That deep down Bester could have been good, because we do see him being very protective of, well, certain telepaths, but there's just something wrong. And I wonder, was it the same thing, that certain aspects of him were held back, pinched, to allow him to be the perfect Psychor Stooley?
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing. You've got two tensions at work in this episode. You've got Franklin, who's under the gun because of orders from Sheridan to try and figure out a way to weaponize the telepaths that they got. And on the other side, you've got Edgars, who has been working for years to develop a virus to, if I remember correctly, the virus was meant to inhibit telepaths' abilities. Or it was meant specifically just to kill telepaths. I can't remember which. I'll have to rewatch.
I think it was the kill.
It was to kill, unless they took some sort of antidote. So,
because if they don't, if they all get infected and they don't take the antidote, then they'll die, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So,
it's kind of like this whole. It's like Earth Force, right? It's like there's a good goal, general goal, and like the problem with the telepaths, so like we're left outside the loop. That's a general reality, but the reaction to the situation is handled in a very violent, ill-mannered, fear-driven aggression. Like like you have Clark, who's in charge of Earth Force. It's a good, you know, protect Earth and humanity, da da da. But when the wrong people are in charge, it turns into something worse or something bad and harmful. Then the whole episode, we're seeing a lot of stress as to weaponizing telepaths to use them, and then another angle is a weapon to go against the telepaths. So again, the title and the duality of this episode is really cool, and it actually takes time to look at that issue that's been ever present up to this point, and it's just planting more seeds into where this can go. And we really see the ugly side of both the good side and the ugly side of the bad side, all the extreme measures they're all going through. And it's both the bad side looks like it's more based off of fear and power. And then the good side, it's based off of low resources and necessities to survive. So it's just like, it's pretty heavy episode, really, when you think about it. And I think Lita and Franklin take the beating of it, with like Franklin trying to get through it all, and even see under his eyes he's got circles starting, and Lita is just stressed, and her story just gets piled on more and more.
Yeah. Well, hey Zod, I do want to ask you, when you had your chance to talk with oh, for heaven's sakes,
Jerry Doyle,
did y'all have a chance to discuss this particular episode, or just the whole story arc of when Garibaldi got turned into a unknowing double agent, and how he felt about that?
We didn't really talk about specific episodes, but he did mention the fact that he did mention the fact that he had gone through a lot of different different levels in life as Garibaldi, and he enjoyed the journey that the character took. I mean, we did talk a lot about that, but nothing really specific in regards to the episodes.
Okay. Well, anything in particular in your conversations that would pertain to this particular episode that you would like to share?
I think that one of the things that he, as we all know, Jerry Doyle, struggled with alcoholism his whole life, and this was something that was implemented into the character as a personal struggle. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily because of the actor himself, or because of what had happened. If this was something that JMS felt necessary to implement, but I think that's one of the reasons why the character of Garibaldi comes off so genuine and realistic when it comes to dealing with all the various issues and things that we see him go through, because so much of it is based on the real actor in terms of human struggles.
Yeah. Well, I when I did my when I did my videos discussing each individual character, I spent a lot of time. I wanted to discuss Garibaldi because his journey, I think his journey and Londo's journeys do in a lot of ways mirror each other, although they do take dovetailing directions, where Garibaldi ascends to, I think, a very good place in life. He finally gets the love of his life. He has a good job, a good position, whereas and he's found some measure of true happiness in his life. But unfortunately for Londo, it goes in the opposite direction. Now, granted, there is a little bit of a good moment or a good time for Londo, but then unfortunately it all goes downhill once he gets put under control by the Drakh with his watcher, or his keeper, excuse me. And the interesting thing with this episode, it focuses very strongly on Garibaldi. And honestly, I kind of was glad for that because we've gotten bits and pieces of his journey over the last several episodes, ever since the end of the Shadow War. But here, they focus the majority of their time of Garibaldi on Mars and everything that he has to go through. And that is something that's sort of rare in B5, where there is pretty much an entire episode that is dedicated to just one character. You do have it with Sheridan in earlier on in season 4 when he's with Lorianne. You do have it with Sinclair. You do have it a little bit with Ivanova on a few occasions, but this is one of those rare episodes where we really go into a deep dive to see Mr. Garibaldi's thought process on how he does things and how he's dealing with this new phase of his life. And, you know, you could almost say that this wasn't just a dark night of the soul for Mr. Garibaldi. It was several dark nights of the soul for him because he's having to decide what's more important to him. Bringing down someone that he perceives as a threat, an unwitting threat, but a threat in the person of Sheridan. Or sticking true to what he believes is right. He doesn't believe that Sheridan is evil. He just feels that he's misguided. And he's always worried. He's like, if someone's going to bring him down, bring him in, I want to be the one that does it. And I think there is a thread of credibility and honesty in that. So, your thoughts on that, guys, or just in general?
Well, there was one thing I was noticing when I was rewatching the episode is Franklin finally realizes, Sheridan's return from Zahadum, how it did change him, because Sheridan told him what he wants him to do with the telepaths that are on board the station with the shadow tech in them. And he notes too, Lita, the other version of him wouldn't have really thought to go that far, using people as weapons, basically. Yeah, it makes you realize that, Sheridan has to go above and beyond of what you thought he'd have to in order to complete the mission. If they have to lose a few lives in the process, it's like, oh boy.
It's kind of like since he came back from Zahadum, he did adopt like extreme. It's almost like he's now at a point where he's making great grand decisions, whereas before he was kind of looking for stuff. And I guess it's like since he's been to hell and back, literally, he's got a new aggressive outlook on how to fight these enemies and these obstacles in their path. So he's definitely changed, and it is very extreme.
He's not afraid of walking across the grass instead of walking along the circular path if the grass is the best way to get there.
Yeah, that and the sense of urgency too. I don't know if it's because he did experience dying and he knows his life is limited, and he could probably die in this battle happening. So it's a lot of factors. Yeah, he's definitely extreme.
Well, the one thing I will say about Sheridan, and
He's
I
still
think
the same.
the one thing I'll say about Sheridan is I think there's maybe just a touch of Lorianne within him, because this seems like potentially something, a move or an attitude that Lorianne would have, or maybe just his exposure to maybe Kosh. Because even though Kosh is gone, the piece of Kosh that was in Sheridan is gone, maybe a bit of something that, maybe a bit of Kosh's mindset or even Lorianne's mindset imprinted partially onto Sheridan, and he does have this mindset. He's not being deliberately manipulated by alien influences, but he not only did he go through hell and die, which can have a profound effect upon you, but also he's seen things or experienced things that most of the people around him couldn't possibly comprehend. And I'm not saying that to be condescending to anyone that is around Sheridan. But when you have two very old, very powerful, very wise, and yes, I will use those words, beings that have shared your mind, have shared your body, it changes you. It gives you a different outlook on things. And I think for Sheridan, he realizes just how bad things could get in this war against Clark, and he's wanting to save lives, and he realizes that to save lives, sometimes you have to sacrifice others for, and I will use this term, the greater good.
Well, they're not doing it flippantly either. They're trying to select telepaths that really don't have any family whatsoever, which is why Bester was worried. You know, because his girlfriend didn't have any immediate family. But again, the Babylon 5 team aren't as cruel. You know, Bester would be cruel to them, but they're not going to do the same thing because they have standards.
Yes. Right. You're right. General good human standards, indeed.
That, and I seem to remember Lorian saying something that's along the effects of to Sheridan. They can't have you as you are now. They need who you will become. You know, after his experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I will address, I'll address both Beer 31 and Colin's comments here. So Sheridan is an overman in the Nietzschean sense. Yes, Beer, I have studied some of Nietzsche's writings and his work, so I do understand that reference. And yes, I would say in a lot of ways that is that is a fairly adept observation. And I'll also bring up Colin's comment here. Ambassador Wang. So Sheridan has seen things that you couldn't possibly comprehend. Yes. I mean, you think about it. He has looked a shadow in the eye or eyes, and he didn't blink. He has literally died and been resurrected by Lorien. He has shared the thoughts and mind of a part of a Vorlon. One in particular that was very close to him and regarded as a mentor and potentially even a friend. So for Sheridan, he has a different perspective on this conflict than everybody else does. I think he realizes, at least in part, that to bring down Clark isn't just to bring down one man, but it's to bring down an entire system that has been in place now for several years. And he's already broken one wheel. And that was the endless conflict between the Shadows and the Vorlons, and the same conflict that everybody else has been caught up in. And he's having to go through it again, except this fight is much more closer to home because he's fighting for everyone on Earth. He's fighting for the preservation of EarthGov and Earth Force, and to hopefully have a better future, to create a better future for everyone else. Because here's the thing with Sheridan. He's not doing this because he's seeking power or rule, unlike what Garibaldi thinks, or rather what Garibaldi has been programmed to think. Because I don't think Garibaldi would necessarily think this if he was in his right mind. Sheridan's not doing this for his own power. He's doing this because it is right. You know, I will put it in this context, and I will reference two games from the Star Wars Expanded Universe that I absolutely love. Revan wasn't evil. He was turned evil but he did what he believed was right to stop the bloodshed of the Mandalorian Wars. Some people may say, and I will paraphrase what Kreis said in Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords. Was Revan evil? Or did he simply go down a path that other men weren't willing to do so? And I think maybe Straczynski or maybe even the people who created the Knights of the Republic games drew some inspiration from Sheridan for Revan. Because they both did things that others would deem as evil or unethical. But however, were the right thing for everyone else around them. And I want to send a shout to the chat, V-Star. I'm glad to see, I hope that you're doing well. I hope you're doing better, and I am glad that you're finally home. And we have missed you, and we are very much glad that you're back. And I'll bring up Shane Nolan's comment here. Like Rutger Hauer in the Blade Runner series, I've seen things you people can't possibly imagine. Yes. And a recent acquaintance and new subscriber to the channel, Lucky Day. Lucky, it is good to see you. I know nothing about Babylon 5, but just stopping by to say hi. Well, Shay, Lucky, it is good to see you. So, but anyway, guys, your thoughts.
Just to say, I think meeting Lise again knocked some of the programming a little bit off center. Because you could see Garibaldi kind of like pausing for a minute and like his overall desire for Lise kind of overriding certain other things for a bit.
That would make sense, because how would Bester know to program and know Lise and her effect on Garibaldi? So in a way, maybe she's like what is it?
Like a bit of a catalyst.
She's a permanent fixture in his mind and in his heart.
Yeah,
he's always thinking about her, even if he doesn't even realize he's thinking about her. She's always there. But that's how it is with matters of the heart and someone that you truly love, that you're always thinking about, and they're always with you. So I think that's probably one of the first things that Bester probably saw when they hacked up Garibaldi's mind. You know, when you think about it, like
that's true, because she's like what Jean Grey is to Wolverine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I wonder how long did Bester know about this? Because how did her and Edgars come to be? Was she part of the lure to draw Garibaldi in? If this was part of Bester's plan.
Well, I don't think Bester knew who the enemies were, because he needs Garibaldi to, find out who the enemies are. So I think Bester would know from Garibaldi's mind who Lise is. I don't think Bester would know who the enemy is, like Edgars and Lisa's relationship with him. I think that's just the universe.
Although it is rather telling that Edgars plays things off, because the telepath does tell him Garibaldi lied about still being, his state of love for Lise.
State of love. Yes.
It's like, oh yeah, I don't have feelings for her anymore. And you see at the end the telepath kind of just shakes their head. It's like, and then Edgars just goes on like, oh yeah, there's nothing wrong, as he's talking to Lise, but really he's just taking stock of like, oh, how will this affect Garibaldi's future employment with certain things? Because I imagine Edgars is the kind of guy that wouldn't want somebody that was in love with his wife around after the fact.
I think he would, because he would monitor that and see if there's an opportunity where he could use that against Garibaldi, because Edgars, he comes off as an opportunist as well as a genius, like a villainous genius. So just like a lot of mafia stuff, they just try to say, oh, I got something on you I could use later. I don't know how, but I got something on you.
And here's the thing. I'm not saying that what your point isn't completely off base, Koj, but I don't necessarily see Edgars as a entirely evil individual. I think he is driven more. I would say there's definitely some opportunists within him. Well, hell, there's opportunists within all of us, but that doesn't necessarily make us will make you a bad person, because you can be opportunist and use it for not just your betterment, for the betterment of others around you. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, like the theme of this thing, how to use a situation good or bad. Yeah, I see what you mean. I agree.
Well, that I seem to remember at least when she was talking to Garibaldi at one point, and he was like, "Why didn't you, wait for or call me when you were free, from the other guy?" And it's like, but the way she described it, Edgars actually came in and kind of swept her off her feet in a little bit. He was there when Garibaldi usually wasn't. Yeah, in a way. So, I mean, I guess in a way, Lise wanted what a lot of women want, is like security and validation from their partner.
Well, yeah, because she said it perfectly. He was kind and he was gentle and he showed me that you loved me. And he did it in a way that you never did or ever could. And that, for me, when I listen to that line again, I'm like, yeesh, Garibaldi, you screwed up.
Yeah, that hurts.
Because it's one thing to say that you love a person, but it's another thing to show it. And for Garibaldi, I don't know if it's just something in his character that, and I'm not saying that as a negative, is it just something in his character that he's incapable of doing, or that he's afraid to do, or what the case? Because I'll give you a bit of a real life example here. A dozen times over, my ex-wife said she loved me, but the moment things went sideways, the moment I stopped kowtowing to her, she cheated on me. Now, I freely admit, and I will always admit this, I was the one who left, but I was pushed, and I saw no other way to resolve the situation. We had tried talking, I had tried reasoning with her, and everything else. But nothing seemed to work. And when you leave someone and then they turn right around and they cheat on you, it rips you up inside. And it's a feeling I would not wish on even my worst enemy. On someone I absolutely positively detest, I would not wish that feeling on them. Because it is the worst type of emotional pain, next to mourning the passing of someone that you love, that you can experience. Infidelity is one of the most gut-wrenching things you will ever experience in your life. And for Garibaldi not being able to reciprocate the love or show it in a tangible way or even an intangible way to Lise, that was gut-wrenching for him. But it was just as gut-wrenching for her, because she found someone, regardless of your opinion of him, that William Edgars showed her affection, attention, and most of all, love. And I think in a lot of ways, Edgars does love Lise. I don't think that there is anything phony or fake about it.
It's like a different kind of love.
Well, there are varying types of love. Do I believe that he loves her in the classic sense? Yes, I would say that Edgars probably does love her in the general sense that we all love our significant others, whether it be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a fiance, a husband, or wife, whatever the case. He does love her. He does care about her. And go ahead, Lucian, please. No, go ahead.
It just struck me that Bester and Edgars are actually mirrors of each other. The difference is Bester's power is telepathy, Edgars' power is money. They both work for their people using any means necessary. They both have a love. Edgars does love Lise, I believe. You see, even when he's dealing with the telepaths, he is trying to kill. He doesn't hate them, and it's not. He does. I don't want you to suffer. He kills the telepaths he is testing that virus on. He says, in pretty much the same way, Bester will deal with Garibaldi. I'm not capricious. I'm not evil. He doesn't make Garibaldi suffer unnecessarily, but he does have fun toying with him. And Edgar's in many ways the same. Edgar's was also willing to sacrifice what he loved when he carried in Garibaldi. He sent Lise, whom Wade said was almost expendable. And Bester is willing to sacrifice people in the same way, even those he loves, for the betterment of his telepaths, in Edgar's case, of the human race, in his mind, both of whom think they'll be on top at the end.
Well, it also reminds me. A real quick question before I make this reference: did you all see X-Men: Days of Future Past, the movie?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the one where he goes back in time in his memories,
With
right?
Wolverine.
Yeah, with Wolverine. Yeah.
Okay. Do y'all remember the character that Peter Dinklage played, Boulevard Trask? I guess I'm
No,
the one.
I'm bad with names. I don't know.
Okay, do you know the actor Peter Dinklage, the short fella?
Yes. Tyrion Lannister.
Okay, Tyrion Lannister. Did you see Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Tyrion Lannister, Peter Dinklage, the short fella.
Yeah,
Right.
he was in that Busta Rhymes hip hop video where he was lip syncing Busta Rhymes. Sorry, that's my favorite part of him. His work.
There,
Yeah, okay.
there is a line of dialogue in Days of Future Past that Boulevard Trask, played by Peter Dinklage, says, and I'll paraphrase it here. I don't hate them. I envy them and I pity them. And he's talking about mutants. Because one of the other scientists there, or one of the other engineers at Trask Industries, asked, why do you hate mutants so much? And he's like, I don't hate them. In some ways, I envy them, but I also pity them because they are suffering. He sees their abilities as an affliction, not a gift. And I think in a lot of ways, Trask and Edgars share that similarity. They don't hate telepaths or mutants, which, if you just want to say it, telepaths and B5 are essentially mutants. They're mutated humans. They are Homo superior.
They're all Jean Greys, yeah.
Yeah, essentially. They are the next step in human evolution, which will eventually lead to us turning into beings of pure energy. And I just want to send a shout out to the chat before I do move along. Excelsior's domain. Excelsior, good to see you. And it's been a little while. And Excelsior, I've been checking out your stuff on B5 as well. And well done. Keep it up.
The River of Souls, where Captain Lockley gets to see just how what happens when a race ascended to the next stage. Oh.
They were evolving.
They weren't dying, unlike what Martin Sheen's Soul Hunter was thinking. They were going to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's see. Drake Tungsten, the Tomorrow People. Yeah, Drake, that's true too. Mm-hmm. So. But, I think one of the really great things about this episode is, at least Excelsior, you are quite welcome. And everybody that's in the chat, if you're not already subscribed to Excelsior's channel, go check him out and give him a subscription, because he does a lot of great stuff. He brings a lot of great insight to the B5 universe as well. And I know Elysium earlier on in the stream posted the links for everybody else's channel in here. So if you're not subscribed to Fiona, Elysium, Koj, or Zodrider, go do so. Because they don't just have great insight for this particular subject. They have great insight into a lot of different topics. I know, Fiona, you will say yours is just a catch as catch can channel, but you do put a lot of time and passion into what you do, and you deserve recognition for it.
100.
P.S. Anyway. Ooh, Excelsior has Eagle transporter. Yay! Space 1999. I'm almost done with season 2. Yay!
Oh Lord, geek.
I wanna piggyback off of what you said earlier, Ambassador, about how these guys pity them. I feel you're right in the sense that because all these type of characters are not villains to their own story; they're the heroes of their own story, and how they rational and see things can be compassionate and loving too. However, I think what makes them evil is their actions, how they go about it. That's what we're saying because he may be compassionate in how he conducts himself and rationalizes himself. I'm talking about all these characters we mentioned, where they pity the people, but their actions are interrupting and hurting people regardless. So, like, with killing the telepaths and all that. So I think the actions ultimately define that they're bad guys, even though their intentions may sound good to them and others as they explain it.
Yes,
I
and
think that
I would.
that's the line that they cross. Like, and
Yeah,
it's the point because there's good in everybody, just like Luke says to Vader. It's just that do we? How do we practice it? Do we practice the good in a bad way or a good way? And also, I want to piggyback a little bit further before I forget, because you said something that's got me thinking of, like, when Kosh and Lorianne were inside or sharing energies with the Sheridan. I think it's one thing to hear someone, like we're all hearing our thoughts in this podcast, for example, but we all don't share the same feelings behind our thoughts and experiences that make us say this. Now, when you have a consciousness shared within you, I'm thinking it's very similar to, like, not just knowing someone's thoughts but feeling them and the rationale behind them. I think you understand more of where another person's coming from if you literally are in their shoes, in their consciousness. And example, the director's cut or extended edition of James Cameron's Avatar, where the female hero and the Jake Sully, I'm forgetting all their names. Bad with names.
Natiri and Jake
Neytiri
Sully.
and Jake Sully, yeah, when they were making love and bonding under the tree, they actually shared their memories. So they were actually able to share all their memories and feelings in the moment because it's very heightened, that they felt how each other felt about each other. So that's more than just hearing it. It's a more believable thing. So with the logic Kosh has of solving problems and Lorian, I think Sheridan has had that, like, avatar experience of knowing those consciousness that affect how he goes about, because he's the same Sheridan. He's just making bigger, extreme decisions because I guess he leveled up in a way too. And
Well,
I think
because he's a
from what you
turning
said,
point now, where he
yeah,
goes, people will follow him. But that's what he had to be turned into, according to what Galen was saying. Once you see Crusade and a few of those things pop up.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
perfect.
perfect.
And another thing, like, that showcases why an empath, kind of like what happened with Talia Winters way back when, that one empath guy would have been another way for the telepaths to have something really potent. Have somebody change how you feel about a person at a tip of a hat. And if you don't have anybody else around you to help stop you from being compulsed, you could go to some really crazy avenues with another subset of telepathy, or what the telepaths can do. It's like, oh my god. Can you imagine if they got a bunch of Lita level telepaths together with the empath ability that guy had? Oh man. Oof.
It'd be like the ending of Dark City, but like everyone going nuts.
Go ahead, Elysium. You were saying?
I mentioned that, like Fiona was saying, if so many got together, it would be something similar to what happened in season 5 with Byron, but on a much worse level.
Yeah. Well, and Koji, I do want to remark on something that you said. It is a unique experience not to just hear a person's thoughts and feelings, but to know just how those thoughts and feelings and ideas are driven. And if you consider, like I mentioned before, the eons of knowledge that dwell within Lorianne and Kosh alike, it's a truly it's for someone like Sheridan, it's got to be a truly mind-boggling experience because Sheridan is young exceedingly young compared to those two individuals. They have seen things, experienced things, done things that he probably couldn't have any frame of reference for. But for him, he's been able to take at least some of that experience and incorporate it into himself and make himself an even more effective leader and make those hard reality altering decisions that's going to change not just the world but the universe around so many billions or zillions of people. I mean, John Sheridan, I'm not saying he's some sort of Superman or anything. He's not. Because he can, and he's definitely not a Gary Stu, that's for damn sure.
Well, he's more like Duke Nukem with intelligence.
Yeah, that is true.
My man.
That is true.
Well, sometimes nukes are a handy thing. Everybody in Stargate would also know that.
Oh, Sheridan loves them.
Very true.
Third space.
Nukes are awesome. Hey, Al Gould. Bye.
Minbari War, too.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap up here. So I'm going to let y'all have the floor with final thoughts, and then we will.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, this was a great episode, but you're actually roboting, so you probably picked a good time to end the show.
Well, crap.
Well, either way. But I thought it was rather interesting to see at the capping end of the episode where they're in the medical room and they're already using this stuff on telepathic, how shall we say, not patients, but like guinea pigs. And it's just like, oh boy, that looks nasty.
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, sorry.
I just had one thought before. When I always wonder why Lita was treated so badly by the command staff, and watching this episode and seeing her in the Psychor uniform, she was getting the jobs she should have been all along. And I think it was nothing personal against her, but Sheridan said he wanted a clean fight, and I think he denied her work because he wanted to keep Psycho rules, so that if anyone looked from the outside, they'll say he was still sticking by Earth Alliance law. Just a quick.
Well,
I'm glad you said that. That makes sense.
I mean, it's not like the command staff didn't help, because at one point she did mention it as Zach. It's like, I can't keep asking them to, as I have a feeling a lot of them were giving her money here and there to help her out. So, I don't see them being that heartless, because she was vital in a whole lot of stuff, but she didn't exactly get the path that the one teenage telepath way back in season 1 got, going off to be able to be with the Minbari and be of service, and get the housing, the food, the clothing, and all that stuff. Because the Minbari approach telepathy a lot differently than from humanity.
Mm-hmm. That one was also extra package because they also wanted to keep her quiet from what she knew of the Minbari. That was when the body was missing too, right?
Yep, the warrior caste guy. Well, he used to be religious caste, Yep. Oh, all that fun stuff. How everything ties back in a weird way.
Yeah. No, but I see the wisdom in what Elysium mentioned too, because if she's like Psychor, that's like
what, like plausible deniability?
They got to put a little distance around, because Bester's like semi their ally during the Shadow War, but now we don't know. So I think that makes sense that when her putting on the Psychor uniform, they're like, we got to push that a little bit back. That's a little too Clarky for us, but not her, just her job. I don't know.
It's too bad we'll never know what kind of ventures she and Jakar had later on. Dang it.
Well, we could have, but I'll save that for next time.
Oh Lord! Well, you think they took up the old mantle? Like maybe she took him up on his old offer way back when from the opening episode.
Probably.
No.
Well,
I think if they continue Babylon 5 instead of reboot it, we probably could find out.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Well,
we'll, you know what? Well, maybe guys, maybe we'll see that in the reboot because after all, this is a CW younger, sexier, more,
Vienna, we get it. You don't, Vienna, we get it.
Vienna's gonna get but you're gonna get the answers to your questions. You're gonna get your answers to your questions about the pleasure threshold of.
I think I'll just make a safer bet and I'll just filter it through you guys. There we go.
Okay, well that works.
No, Vienna, you're just an egg. No, you're just an egg.
I just prefer the old vintage.
No, you're just a stick in the mud. You're just a stick in the mud.
Hey, it ain't old when the gold is still shining. Bam.
Exactly. No,
I prefer the classic vintage.
Well, that's like.
Hey, heck, even the same goes for Battlestar Galactica. Now that I actually watched the OG one, I'm like, I prefer that one.
Fiona, for the love of Pete, JMS is writing the freaking series. What more do you want?
I'd rather have it set in not a remake, another part of the universe or another part along the timeline.
Well, guess what?
We also don't know the politics, though.
That's not what he wants to do. He wants to do a reboot. So let him do the reboot and judge it on its merits when it comes out, instead of being a preemptive neg who just wants to.
No, I shall not hate watch it. No, I promised myself I wouldn't even do that with what's happening with all modern entertainment. So
no, never hate watch anything.
No, so that's why I'm like I like OG Battlestar Galactica more than the reimagined series because
Galactica sucks.
The OG one though had more hope, and that's what I'm looking for.
Sucks. It sucks. It's trying to be a knockoff of Star Wars, and it sucks.
But everybody's a knockoff of something ever since the caveman days.
That's not true.
There's like basically about 7 or 8 stories that you can tell and retell in certain different ways, but add your own flavor.
Yeah.
I like flavors. Like
I disagree.
No, and that's fine. That life is filled with disagreement. If we were all the same, then it would be an unfortunate factory. Yes.
OG was it Battlestar? I'd say no. I really enjoyed it, but if you're saying Galactica 1980, oh yeah, that sucked.
No. I mean the original one.
All of the original Battlestar stunk. You actually got decent storytelling, decent acting, decent effects, and just a decent series with the reboot. I'd say in this case the reboot is superior to the original.
I still think the OG one had a lot more hope, even considering what happened. And that's what I'm missing in my entertainment. I want the superversive.
Hope schmope.
Yes.
Well, I got curveball.
Hey, Vienna, you want hope? Read the Bible.
What? I have been studying certain passages because I make allusions to certain things.
Read
the protocol.
Read the whole thing, not certain passages. Read the whole thing because you're not getting context, which you're not giving the reboot a chance at giving you context.
Well, no. That's why I'm gonna watch from a distance, because again, Superman was torn apart by Bendis, and like it's like nope, I'm not going to touch certain things with a 10-foot pole. Not right now.
You're just a big old smelly neg. Neg.
But you need a counterbalance to Yes, yes.
No,
but I just don't go about it in like where it's like I'm going to make 10,000 videos of how disappointed I am. It's like no, I'm going to just concentrate on things I enjoy.
Yeah, that's the way to go about it. But I just want to throw a curveball. I don't know the politics behind WB, which is more than we always ever know. This could have been a situation where they decided to reboot Babylon 5 with or without Straczynski, and Straczynski's like, that's not what I wanted, but if you're going to do it, I'd rather be there rather than you give it to someone else. You know what I mean?
That's what
Babylon 5.
That's what feels more likely, because it seems to be like JMS always wanted to continue the legacy that he began. It probably wasn't his first preference to reboot, but Kojay, I believe 100% in what you just said, because
I agree too.
Because if you're gonna come out and you're gonna remake my creation without me there, all you're gonna do is bastardize it. So at least if I come in and I can take control of it, I can steer it and at least make it a palatable and maybe even a worthy reboot. But who knows? Yeah, there you go. You just solved the mystery. I mean, that's
because law-wise, if he does work on the new one, he has more creative control on it. Because if he doesn't, then he loses it, because they have a chance to redefine it. Because a lot of these people fight for IP, so when they redefine it, and that the redefined version becomes the, I guess, let's think pro wrestling. We give it the main title, so that's the one everyone focuses on. And then if you do spin-offs of that, and then JMS isn't attached to that, then he loses Babylon 5, and his baby's like taken somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I would not have put it past him to do Joss Whedon's Babylon 5, because because as we know, Warner Brothers, we also have to remember what the company that we're dealing with here, guys. We're dealing with Warner Brothers, and they don't particularly have the greatest of reputations when it comes to anything recently. So if you're gonna look at it like that, yeah, I think it was simply that, like, with or without you, we'll reboot Babylon 5, and he's gonna come in and he's gonna save it. So in that regard, I think it'll be good. It'll be better than what it would have been if it was being run by somebody else.
Just like the OG Babylon 5, because the studio did mingle and do some changes, but because JMS was there, he was able to make it cohesive and work to what was the heart of Babylon 5.
Right, exactly.
Although
I am still not trusting CW.
I don't have enough sticks to trust CW.
We want Baywatch in space. Remember, that's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. Remember, that's what they wanted for Crusade. They wanted Crusade to be Baywatch in space.
And he wasn't having none of it at the time, so it's just like...
Okay.
I will just watch from a distance, and I'll just keep promoting the things
you're just
going to
be You're just going to be a scaredy cat. You're just going to be a chicken.
We'll see.
You know what, Joe? Well, you used to. You ought to change your avatar from a dragon to a chicken.
The thing is, though, I want to stand by what I've stated, to where I want to promote indies and Brand Zero over, say, mainstream that's become corrupted and diluted. I just want to stand by that and keep offering the alternatives. Like, I'll tag Star Wars, but then I'll offer the alternatives.
That's what's up. I like that.
Because I've seen enough of where it's the constant, even certain fandoms, or there are the Ouroboros tale where they'll keep eating each other. It's like, if you're so upset about the way something has gone, then support indies that are giving you that same feeling that you want, but they're not stuck with whatever the corporation or the studio wants to do.
Amen, sister. I'm glad you said that, because I work in the indie industry now, and I just love hearing that. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's why I'm trying to turn my vinegar into honey in other directions. If I'm upset with one thing, it's like I'm not going to continue to harp on it, because it would serve no purpose. So I'm going to be like, okay, you want the next Stargate? Here's an indie that's doing Stargate really well. You want the next Babylon 5? Here's another indie that's doing the next Babylon 5 really well.
Like, did you guys see Star Trek Continues? That was brilliant for, the low budget they had.
Yeah, and it actually very much captured the spirit of the original series.
I didn't like Kirk in it, though, but overall it was pretty brilliant.
Well, speaking of indies, I don't consider myself necessarily an indie. I just consider myself a one-off fan fiction writer, which will be soon a three-off fan fiction writer. I want to let you all know now, in December, I will be launching... This is a placeholder title, Project Unity, which is going to be the placeholder hashtag for my Star Wars fan fiction, The Unity of the Force.
Yes.
It is coming. I'm putting the finishing touches on it. Then I'm handing it off to Madam Ambassador for editing. And in December, I will be making a press junket around the internet to some fellow YouTubers channels to promote this and put the word out to get the cast together for this fan fiction. I already have a few people that are interested, and I will say a little bit on this. I do want to double check with one of the producers and the director, or at least the producer. I was a story advisor on a fan film, excuse me, that is based in the Star Wars universe. And I'm going to do some promotion for that as well. So December, besides Book of Boba Fett and a few other things that I'm working on, it's also going to be Star Wars heavy in terms of independent creators, myself included. And I'll be promoting those projects and giving you all the rundown on those projects. I do want to let you all know we are potentially either going to reschedule or we will just postpone next week's broadcast because Madam Ambassador has to go in for a colonoscopy around the time that we normally go live. Oh. So I will keep you all. We'll talk about this once we go off air. But I want to let everybody else that's here know. I'll let you all know through social media whether or not we're going live or what we decide to do for next week's episode. So, but I do want to thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you all enjoyed the discussion. And as Elysium said, and I wholeheartedly agree with this stream is also your show, not just ours. You put in just as much input as we do, and here you are all ambassadors. Here you are all part of this community. And I'm very grateful and very humbled that you all come back each and every week to hear us discuss this series. That you all support not just myself, but these other channels that are part of this council. Because here, we're not a high council. We're just a council of ones. But within ones, there is unity. And that's what the ambassadorial wing has always been about. Community, unity, the love of fandom, the love of these things that are part of the pop culture landscape. And in the coming weeks and months, we're going to give you something truly exceptional. Or at least we're going to try to. I do want to let you all know I will be going live tomorrow night with a pre-Halloween watch party over on my Twitch channel, and we'll be watching the 1980s cult classic Critters. And then to wrap up the Halloween festivities, I will be doing a review of a ultra classic from the black and white era, the Vincent Price classic, House on the Haunted Hill, and we'll also be doing a discussion on the remake. So, and that will be Sunday afternoon as an installment of Afternoons with the Ambassador. And then next month, I will be doing a series of reviews in preparation for the release of Matrix Resurrections. I will be doing a full review series on all 4 of the Matrix movies, the animated anthology, The Animatrix, and The Matrix, Matrix Reloaded, and Matrix Revolutions. And got a few other things planned as well for next month. So, but that all being said, folks, you have a great afternoon or evening wherever you're at. We will see you all next time. And until next time, these are the ambassadors signing off.
I have always been